Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, then you're watching The Tech Corner, a platform created by yours truly to help women secure the tech bag. I'm super excited about today's video, guys, because I have a very special guest who will be joining me today. So my friend Florian is a software engineer at Google and he's also ex-Facebook. I remember you guys really enjoyed the feature that I did of him on my Instagram page, so I thought I'd invite him over to YouTube to delve a little bit deeper into kind of his journey to tech, how he became a software engineer, and of course how he ended up at Google. So I think today will be a really interesting video, guys, and he is definitely going to give you lots of great insight on how you can become a software engineer and how you can get your foot into some big tech companies like Facebook and Google. Yeah, so definitely it's going to be a good session, but it'd be great if we just kick off by you kind of telling us a little bit about yourself, kind of what you do now, and then we will go a little bit more into your journey and things like that.
Sure. Let me present myself. So I'm Florian. I'm living in London and working as a software engineer. Currently I'm working at Google, but I used to work in other companies before, and I'm also doing a side project. It's a game creation application.
Wow.
That is called GDevelop, and it's getting used by thousands of people each month. So it's a very nice side project to have to sorry.
Yeah. That sounds really amazing. No, that sounds really, really cool to have a side project. So are you sole owner of the side project? Are you working on it by yourself?
No, not really. It's I'm the original author, but it's an open source project, so people can go on GitHub and see the source code and contribute back. So that's very nice because there is a whole community that is being built around it, and people contributing to the source code, and I'm reviewing the code, and integrating and evolving the software this way. So it's a nice project, yeah.
Oh, lovely. That's really good. Are you going to be able to link kind of the GitHub? Are you willing to share it? If you are, then I'll definitely put it kind of in the description for people to go have a look, because I'm sure they'll find that really, really interesting. So thanks for that. So, you said you mentioned kind of you're a software engineer. Could you tell us a little bit more about kind of your journey to becoming a software engineer, what you did at university, how long that took? Because I know the process can be quite long. So I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah, sure. So the thing that I've always been fond of everything related to computers, video games since a very long time. When I was young, I was I was playing at video games because it's fun and it's cool to be in a virtual world and to do stuff, adventures, all of this. So I wanted to learn how to make apps and video games. So I started looking for tutorials, buying some books, learning some programming language in high school, maybe, or maybe a bit before. I'm a very nerdy guy, Then I was doing okay at school, so in particular in mathematics. So I went to study mathematics and physics for 2 years and got into a university that was specialized in applied mathematics and computer science. And that's really what I wanted since a long time, to be able to really study computer science and get the theory behind all of this. That was a really great time, and I got good knowledge both thanks to this university and because of my side project, always working on stuff.
Oh wow, that's amazing. So you kind of took the traditional route into software engineering. So kind of you had quite a good STEM background and then went into computer science, and then you've been working since.
Yeah, I was lucky because it has never been like a hard question for me to choose a career path. I was okay, I like this and I spend a lot of time doing it, so let's go for it. So I consider myself very lucky, and it's true that it's a lot of time to spend because this kind of skills and studies, they take a long time. But if you're interested in, go for it. It's an amazing field. And when finishing university, I went to work in a consulting company doing mobile applications.
Okay, so that's interesting. Were you doing software engineering in that company as well?
Yeah. I was. It was a much smaller company than Google, where I'm working at currently. But it's also very interesting, and I already I really encourage everyone to not to think just about big tech companies, but also about smaller companies that can be very interesting because you get to learn about leadership, management of teams. Just talking to a customer or clients for which you're developing an application. All of this is very interesting.
No, I completely agree. Like having the opportunity to work in a smaller space, I guess you don't get so lost. With big companies, there is so many people in the projects and so many people working on it that sometimes it's kind of feel like a very little person in a very big space. Whereas like I think with a smaller company, I guess your skills will be much more needed and much more required. So you'll definitely get to learn and kind of grow more, which I think.
Right. The maybe this kind of companies, they need a more specific skill set into a specific technology, but also you are maybe more impactful on the whole company because it's smaller, so you get to do things that you wouldn't do in a big company.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. And so you've pretty much been a software engineer your entire kind of career and adult life. So what do you enjoy about being a software engineer? Like, what are you passionate about?
I think that what I really like is creating new things and useful things, of course. But I think the best feeling in when you see users using what you did and that it's providing them value or just that they enjoy using it. That's really what I like. You put hard work for a few weeks, months, and into a feature or an application or a website, and then you get to see users. That's really the good feeling.
I can imagine it's very tangible. Like you work towards something, and that's the great thing about kind of coding and programming as well. Kind of even the smallest thing, even if it's just printing hello world kind of on a web page, that it's instant. Once you've done it, you've pressed it, it's gone through, and you can see the results. I think that's really amazing, and I think that's what people really find interesting about this career path, which is great. But what would you say you find challenging? Because I'm sure there are some challenges of going down this route.
Right. Well, the thing is that, of course, technically, sometimes you're stuck on something and can be very frustrating. You can always ask for help, to your teammates or just on the internet. So you have to be humble because sometimes you don't know everything and you're stuck for a few hours, days maybe on some issue. But I think that more generally, not just about coding, there is always something more to do. So you have to make choices and discuss and make the right technical choice because in the future things may evolve. But I think that this changing part, it's what's also the good part of being a software engineer.
It's two-sided.
You can tell the other, well, I know about the technical part, so I can recommend we go this way. And given the requirements, maybe we cannot do everything, or maybe it's for sure we won't do everything. This is maybe a smart approach or a different approach, and that's both the changing part and the good part of being a software engineer.
Okay, that's really, really good. Thank you. And what would you say you kind of day to day, what do you do as a software engineer? Because I think a lot of people imagine you kind of being sat there writing lines and lines and lines and lines of code, but don't really know what that looks like. So it'd be great to know what your day-to-day looks like.
Yes. It depends on what kind of team and project you do. Of course, you spend a fair amount of time writing actual code, but it really depends. For example, in a more traditional team, when you're developing apps, web apps or websites, you usually try to follow, a development process. You may meet with the team, maybe your client or your product manager, depends, or other people working on the project, like UX designer, and you make meetings to plan the work, to design the features. So, of course, meetings will be a part of your job, and also it's the good part of the job, not being always coding. But of course, then in the day, you're usually spending a fair amount of time coding the features or fixing a bug or searching for a good technical approach. In my current team, I'm spending a lot of time writing, but not code, but more documents, researching stuff, trying to make a good summary about, okay, this approach, we could do that, but here are the disadvantages and advantages. So that's that's the kind of thing that you do during the day. You always have a meeting or two. If you're a team, if you're in a team where you can try to put meetings at a specific time in the day, it's better, because then you get more, space for your mind to go and code when you need to.
So yeah, it's quite varied, actually, quite varied. You do kind of a wide range of things. You write the code, you review the documents, you write, physically writing and things like that. So I think that's really, really interesting about the role. So what I want people to understand is it isn't just like you're in the dark room and you're just coding by yourself all day.
Yeah. Well, if you want to be a very technical guy working on something, it can happen, I think, especially in big companies where you can be very specialized in something. But I would say that the soft skills, they are very important, and being a good teammate, it's maybe sometimes more important than being a good coder. Even if the technical part is of course important, you also spend some time reviewing the code of your teammates. So that's how we say, when you're alone, you're going faster, but when you're with a team, you're going further, because everyone can work on different things. And I think it's also a good feeling when you see people contributing to features and see that, wow, we did all this work during this week. You can be proud of you.
Proud of it, definitely. I absolutely see that. And I think big companies as well, big tech company culture is really, really important. So it is kind of embedded, teamwork and communication and all of that good stuff is really embedded in the culture. But we will go into that further into the interview. But what do you think has made you successful as a software engineer? Like what skills do you think have you can pinpoint? You say, yeah, I think being able to do that has really helped me with my career, and in the last kind of few years, this is what I've used to continuously be successful in this space.
Yeah, I see that. I think, sorry, that you have to be always curious and try to expand your skill set. I would say to go and try different technologies. What I have been doing in the last years and since I began in this field, is to try and keep an open mind to all kinds of technologies. For example, there is the front-end technologies, the back-end technologies, mobile, video games. All of these are a bit different, but it's also very nice to see that things that you do on the front-end side can be sometimes translated to what you're doing somewhere else, or a different approach. For example, in video games, you want to be very cautious about memory usage, performance. It's less the case maybe in another field, but that's a trade-off. So this kind of trade-off, it's good to know how to do them by learning different technologies and seeing difference.
That makes absolute sense. Curiosity is really, really important. I think it's really important with all careers within tech, because tech is always growing, and I think a lot of people don't quite understand how fast it goes. I definitely sit, at work, and I'm just kind of working normally, and then I get an email saying, oh, we're not using that anymore, and this is now coming in, this is what we'll be using, or we're now developing this, so let's forget about this other thing that we were doing.
And in terms of technology, for example, back in the days, I was doing a lot of C++, so kind of hardcore programming language, I will say, because you need a lot of time to study, like the dangerous part of it. Not dangerous, but it's a language where if you make a mistake, things are not working. And then I learned a bit about web development, and it was many years ago. And at first I was like, oh, why are we doing everything on the web while we already have the technology for doing it as a desktop application or as a mobile application. Mobile applications, they were just starting at this time. So I was a bit frustrated, like why reinvent everything on the web? And then I learned about JavaScript, the programming language, and I really changed my mind. It's an incredible language, and now I can really say that I really love JavaScript as a language, and C++ too, which are really two different things than usually people tend to oppose, to say either you're a guy working with C++ or JavaScript on the web, but it's not something that you mix. So yeah, that's what I try to do, to have a bit of to be comfortable with more than one field. It's really good for your career, I think.
Definitely being kind of open-minded, open to opportunities, and not just, a lot of people would be, some people would be like, oh, I'm never going front end. They would just be like, no, I'm staying back end because those are the real languages or whatever. That's how I'm really technical. But like you said, having the opportunity and going kind of into a front end as well has really helped you develop in your career. So it's been really good for you to stay open-minded.
Yeah, totally. Don't try to stay in the same field and to think they are gatekeepers. Just go and try stuff. If you don't like front end, give it a try. If you don't like backend, give it a try. And you may think that actually it's not that bad, and there are interesting technologies and so on.
It makes a difference. That's great. Thank you so much. Well, obviously you've said that you are at Google, and we all know what Google is. So what made you kind of go from, I think you said you used to work at Facebook. So that's another big tech company, and now you are at Google. So what made you make the switch? What do you enjoy about working at Google as a company?
Yeah. So I got contacted by Google recruiters in the past twice, actually. But I failed the interview twice. So these things happen, and actually it's because the recruitment process is really tough. And well, if you don't get the interviews on the first time, it's not a problem. See,
it's not the end of the world.
But it's really the last time I got contacted, I wasn't sure at first, and then why not? It can be interesting. Because my interest was more about what kind of project I can do at Google, and I was very interested to be able to use my skills to improve video games and to work on video games, something that I've only done as a side project before. And it turns out that there is a team working on it where I am in London. So I discussed with the recruiter, who told me that they had this team. So I got very interested. I passed the interviews. I got 4 of them, and then they asked for 2 more, so 6 of them. That was a long process. And finally, because the interviews went well, I got to discuss with the manager of the team, and I decided to move because I really wanted to work in video games, and I think that Google is a great place to make some impactful work on this.
Yeah, no, definitely. So yeah, it's really interesting that you said one, that obviously you failed the first 2 times, which is very natural kind of in the tech space. It's so interesting because tech, there's a lot of demand for it, but it's very competitive at the same time. So it's one of those industries where it's both sides of the coin. Like, we need more people, but it will be difficult to get in once you're in. Like, I've spoken about kind of my journey in, to Microsoft, and my application process was kind of the same in regards to, it wasn't 6 interviews, but it was like 7 or 8 steps. So all different: presentation, group work, 2 interviews, like all these different video interviews, psychometric tests. So many steps. So I think people have to be aware of that when they're applying for tech companies, because the steps tend to be quite rigorous.
Yeah. And some companies, they are less about, for example, at Google, when you're passing the interviews, it's really about coding and the algorithm and the computer science fundamentals, which can be less the case in other companies. In a smaller company, they will be more interested in what you know about a specific technology, because you need to be able to work on it very quickly. In bigger companies, they are more like about, can you adapt to something else?
Can you learn? Can you growth mindset? Like, can you just learn the technology? Because we definitely have people who come from non-technical backgrounds who have moved into technical roles because they have maybe the industry perspective of doing that, and they're willing to learn, which I think is really fantastic. And Google and Microsoft and all these big companies, I think, give you the opportunity to do that for sure.
So some of the best people I've worked with, they are people that are coming from a non-technical background, and they got into it later, and they are doing an awesome job. So it's really about giving it the time.
Definitely being willing to just be open and grow, like we've said before. So you kind of spoke about the application process. So it was rigorous, it was hard, but do you think that you enjoyed it? Do you think it was worth it? And is it a representation of kind of what you do right now? Because I know a lot of people say that the application process for tech companies, especially big ones, is actually harder than when they come in and they actually do the work. It's a little bit different. So what was your kind of expectation versus reality?
Oh yeah, I think that across the tech world, the interviews, they are different than the day-to-day job, because I think that companies they are testing for a specific set of skills, and it's not always translating to what you're doing your day-to-day job. So yeah, I totally agree that it's a bit different. It's a different skill than our day-to-day job, but you can also prepare for it.
Yeah.
And that would be my advice, by the way. Study algorithm, data structure, get some good time to prepare for interviews in front of a whiteboard. When I prepared, I did this. I went to get some books and exercise on the web about various things like data structures, algorithm. I think that at some point you're kind of enjoying it because you're improving and getting better. But yeah, it's true that it's a bit different than your day-to-day job. So same thing. Try to keep a good balance between doing this kind of exercise to be good at the interview and also continue working on what you like and some interesting technologies. We're not also assessing just your raw skills at coding. It's also about how interesting you are, how you communicate, learn to write well. I was telling that I was writing a lot during my day-to-day job.
Okay, that's really good. Yeah, it's good to know that there's things that you should be thinking about when you're applying for these companies. Like, know what the company is looking for. So know that there's going to be certain things that you need to be good at. So, the data algorithms that you've said and the structures and stuff, but also know that, there's things that you enjoy that you can bring to the workplace that maybe they don't do. So maybe talk about that in the interview, understand how, bring it to yourself to the interview. I think that's the tip that I always give to people. They're going to see hundreds, right? Like, Google and Microsoft, I think, get like 2 million applications a year. So they see millions of people, millions of CVs. So what's going to make you stand out from the crowd to the next person, I think is really important.
Yeah. It depends also on what you do. I'm spending a lot of time on my side projects. So it can also help when people see that you've been working on this. It gives a good hint of what you're capable of doing on your own, and that you have the grit to do it. And if you don't have a side project, that's also totally fine, because it's not for everyone. You have to get the time for doing it. So I would say it's also about the soft skills, being humble, smart, but also being able to be a good communicator. It's very important. I would rather work with nice people rather than people that are very knowledgeable, but that also are communicating not well at all. It can happen. Don't be that guy.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think when you're working kind of in tech, it's a lot of people, I don't know why they imagine kind of being, when you're techie or working in tech, you work by yourself, but you really don't, right? There's so many people in the chain of this, right? First of all, there's obviously the development people. Then there's the people who have to sell it. Then there's people who have to do post sales. Like, it's a whole cycle, and everybody kind of has to work together for everybody to get the product out to the customer and for the customer to be able to use it and for it to be successful, especially for massive companies, because we have millions of customers, right? Like, so many people are going to be using our products, so we have to ensure that it really gels together, and the process, everyone in that process is as important as everyone else. So you just got to be kind of really communicative. So that's really good. So you mentioned kind of like some of the tips and advice that you would give for kind of people wanting to apply for Google, but what advice do you have for people who want to just become software engineers, but they're not looking to go into big companies, but they're really just getting started and they're like, I don't know where to look, because it's a very popular kind of career path to take that a lot of people really want to do. And as we grow in kind of the tech space, there's definitely going to be more and more of a need for them. So it'd be great to kind of hear your advice on that.
Yeah, there are a lot to learn. So maybe my advice would be to start by something that you like, or even some kind of very small side project. And by giving you a goal, you will go and search for resources, documents, tutorials to start in this field. I wouldn't say to go and study the fundamentals of computer science, because it's something that you can do on the go. As I was saying before, keeping a balance between getting some actual skills on some front-end technology, for example, if you want to create a website, and then you can always dive into some fundamentals, data structure, and try to do a bit of both. So you can understand the theory, but also in practice you can do something real. I really changed the way I was learning when I was younger. When I learned to do some graphical stuff on the screen. Before that, I was always reading some books about programming languages. And they were just about, okay, you do that, and then you can add best things, and that's doing nothing. When something is shown on the screen, a result, a web page, anything, then you start to see, okay, this can be transformed at some point into a real application or whatever, and you'll keep your motivation.
Yes, absolutely. So you mentioned a few things in there, I think, that are really important, and I actually spoke about them kind of in my other coding video. So one of them is one thing that I think a lot of people forget. It is learning style. Like how do you enjoy learning? Because like you said before, you were kind of picking up books. I would never pick up a book because I'm one of those people who likes to see things happening in kind of real time, and I like to do things with my hands. I really struggle, or I like to watch things. So I really struggle with kind of reading instructions. So when an instruction manual comes, I will have to put up a YouTube video because I prefer to kind of put it together as I'm watching. Whereas other people, they really love reading and they do read lots of kind of coding and algorithm books and that's how they expand their learning. So I think learning style is always really, really important.
Yeah, you have to find what you like the best. I'm not watching lots of videos because I like to read at my own pace. You can always pause the video, right? but I kind of prefer to read because sometimes when I know about the first part of the subject, I just go to the end of the article or whatever. But it depends really on the way you learn. I also found that I spend a lot of time looking at, for example, on Twitter or on social medias about new technologies, just reading articles about this new language. Okay, it's interesting. There is Rust. It seems to be a nice language. Never tried, but I just reading articles about it to see how it goes. Then when I want to learn about something really in depth, I try to apply it to what I'm doing. On my video game application, I'm trying to see, okay, is there a way for me to use this new thing that I've seen? If not, that's fine. If there is a way, maybe I've discovered something new that will be very useful for users.
Definitely. Again, it goes back to that curiosity point, isn't it? Just being curious in that space really, really helps. And like we said, finding the way that you learn that's best for you. And also you mentioned as well, not being stuck. If you are reading and if you are watching videos, it's not being stuck in just doing that. Start doing stuff, right? Start building. Start creating something, even if it's just, simple projects online, simple games, simple websites. You can build an entire website, just watching kind of YouTube videos and following along so that you kind of understand what the person is doing. And then once you've stopped watching the tutorial, have a go at it yourself. Like, can you build a simple website by yourself without kind of watching the video? So I think that's really, really important. And I think a lot of people can get caught up in kind of learning, but not practicing what they're learning. And then that's really, that you will get stuck, just like a speaking language, right? If you don't speak the language, French, it just goes, right? It just disappears. And it's not until you speak it again that you remember, you're like, okay, Yeah, I can speak it. I have some of it in my head somewhere. I just need to practice it.
Yeah, right. And if you don't have time for it, you can try to make maybe time at work by telling your team, hey, let's do some kind of break and learn something by just messing around, trying to find something. And, the saying goes that it's how you create the best product, by just giving yourself time to experiment and to actually find something out of luck. That is really better than what you're doing right now.
Yes, absolutely, definitely. Well, thank you so much. I think that was a really, really interesting video. I think the followers are really going to enjoy it. I will put your Twitter and any links kind of that you want me to put in the description below. And I'm sure we're going to get questions, so I will send out any questions that kind of the viewers have. Thank you so much for watching today's video, guys. I hope you found it useful. Please remember to share, like, comment, and of course subscribe. If you have any questions for Florian, then I will put his contact details in the description below. He is active on Twitter, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Don't forget to download my free tech starter guide, which is in the description below, and I will of course see you in my next video. Bye.